even need it, but
Tom Planning?
under planning, PowerPoint CC, yeah.
Blake and I.
Trying to
You wanted
keep
to
you on
sit by
your
you.
toes. I'm not, is my name's not up there, is it? Oh, I'm not sitting up here.
So, you know, I have this now, and I have a little badge. I could just pass
You
on
can pull somebody over.
I can fool somebody.
That's right.
And say, let me in. See this? Let me in. I'm giving you a ticket.
Comply. I'll take it home to the kids. You have to listen to me, kids.
That's right. That was crazy about that code enforcer in West Valley. That was so sad.
That was terrible.
Gosh, I thought, for heaven's sakes, be so angry to do such a thing. It's terrible, huh?
Yeah.
People get a little cringy.
Yeah, so we've set up a process to protect our guy. Have access. And when he goes to the house, he'll check to see if they've had problems there.
Got these ones.
It was
Who'd you
very
end up going to on
premeditated.
your
It seemed
pages?
like
IC
brought
group.
her out there
What's
to.
the name of them? They were.
So terrible.
Got that one. 3
Yeah.
minutes. There you
I
go.
just told him, I'm just gonna pretend.
Oh, I can be a crossing guard too.
IC group. I haven't heard of that. You know, it actually ended up being. So one of the canines certainly hired down. His wife works for IC group. He asked for a chance to bid on them, and she beat the other two bids that we had by like.
Yeah, I don't know that that would have protected her either.
Two or other bids.
I think it was just a
Similar
big deal, just some crazy person that was just annoyed.
So he's supposed to call good quality.
Well, I need to lay over matches right now. I thought about it about a month ago, and I did some inventory.
Yeah, I don't know. And they may have had probably several. I don't know.
Right.
Definitely wasn't that kind of detail.
Obviously, our
Hopefully
incident,
that would help
we had a
protect
mad
people.
dash to try to get everybody
News doesn't
blues,
work.
so we burned. I literally
Sure.
went to
But
this
it would be good if that was the case. That would kind of mitigate the situation a little bit to try and protect them a little.
yesterday. Like,
Yeah,
we got it did you guys use
Oh, you did?
Larks with
That's probably good. He's probably like, wow, okay.
stacked?
Yeah. I think that all the time. It's like, what about my head?
They're,
Wear a helmet.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, not patches. Like purple. Wow.
Yeah.
That looks nothing like
Crazy.
this. I'm like, well, that's exactly what it called for. And I said, lagoons are not the same. So I was like, I'm not.
On a better note, Lagoon was fun.
That was fun.
Yeah, I had a good time. My husband had a couple of tickets. He gets every year.
Heard of IC
Two
group?
tickets.
I
You can go
absolutely
whenever
do.
you want.
I'd like to send them.
And so last year we didn't use them.
Get a copy.
And so this year, at the end of August, I'm like, dude,
Get it for me. And see.
I'm using the tickets. And he's like, well, when am I going to go? I'm like, you never go. So, so I brought my daughter, brought her friend, and I brought my granddaughter. I go, you guys use these tickets, and I'll get the rest of the tickets on the other one. So it was good. But we got everyone there, except for my husband. He got to go to work.
Oh, there you go. That's fun.
that we have and we use. But that image was.
I saw you walking off Wicked.
Was born through this whole.
Oh my gosh, my ankle.
I honestly don't know.
That was it?
Well,
I
Wicked.
tore when it wasn't wicked. Did it?
I actually
I only rode one ride. It wasn't wicked.
I like it.
I tore the ligaments in my ankle again 2 weeks ago. So just by that time of the day, it was killing me. I couldn't walk.
I have my little 10-year-old granddaughter going on Wicked with me, and I saw her walking. Maybe we should get going on this.
I didn't ride it. I only rode one ride the whole day.
We tried to go on kind of over the line was so long. It was like, you're not going on it.
That was one that actually the line moved pretty fast.
Did it?
Yeah, that was the one that wasn't too bad.
That's so.
My daughter's friend came and
C group. I need.
I do like what it does.
Oh yeah.
yeah, I was like, oh, I want to go too.
I used to get paid to go do those rides.
June.
Oh yeah. What was the?
I've read lagoon several times. I was telling my kids, like, I have no desire to do any of this stuff anymore because that's what I used to have to do.
No longer
Looks
fun.
really good.
Yeah, once it becomes a job, it's no longer fun.
Good.
But
I
even
need to
even then, I couldn't help
get
but
that
look
contact.
around and like estimate how many
Reach out
people were in line
We're
and
branding
there
that
for
post
pay
water
and
for that.
how they could move that faster and that faster.
Yeah, but
To your brain.
good.
That's awesome.
Take all the fun out of it.
That's what my wife said. She's like, knock it off. A long time ago.
Thank you. Well, my wife told me that the canal was overflowing at my house a little while ago.
Was it?
That it was going down the ditch,
So it was working the way it was supposed to.
That open spaces back. You know when you come down.
What? I forgot to ask. What new flag?
So they still have the wagon.
The wagons.
I was the one that caught. I was reading through this
Like a new-
legislation. I sent an email saying,
Like
"What
a
do
new.
I have
Why
this?"
do we need a new flag?
Yeah, it was
Good
because of
idea.
the wagon.
No, it's because we still
Okay.
had the wagon one.
Catch, by the way.
I was going through. I'm like,
I like
that
the
can't
old
be
one.
right.
I thought a good idea. She said.
I like the old one.
wouldn't have wanted to change it.
I'd vote to change it back. Should we dissent on that one?
Yeah.
Would be a really good location.
Take it out
We
of
like the old one.
Jackie.
Keep forgetting to send this email. Alexander Gills on the youth council, his suggestion
Something that's not.
on Herriman.
Jackie.
On the
All right, I'd like to welcome everybody out to our city council meeting for Wednesday, August 22nd, 2018. We will go ahead and get started. We will start with okay, thank you. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance provided to us by Devin Henniger from Scout Troop 114. So if you'd please come up.
Will the audience please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance after me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We always appreciate our community's participation in our meetings, so thank you very much. We will move on to item 1.2, council disclosure of conflict of interest. Are there any disclosures for today?
No.
Okay. We'll move on to 1.3, mayor and council comments. I do just want to make a quick note that Councilwoman Martin will not be in attendance at our meeting today, and we send her she sends her regards. Any other comments or recognitions from the council? The only one that I would like to make is, other than that, is just want to take one last moment to recognize the loss of our community and the loss of a public service officer here in the Valley. Matt Burchett was a fine officer who has affected many here, particularly one of our council members who is the fire chief in Draper. I was honored to be able to attend his funeral services and was deeply moved by the love that not only so many had for him, but the love that clearly was shown back to our entire community, to the family, and to Chief Burchett this last week. So as a council, we're happy. We are happy to know that there's so much support when something so terrible happens. So we will move on to public comment. Public comment audience members may bring any item to the mayor and council's attention. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes. State law does prohibit the council from acting on any items that do not appear on our agenda. So if there's a member of the public that would like to speak to us today, now would be the time to please come up to the podium.
My name is Glenn Larson, and over in the Copper Creek Estates neighborhood. Just wanted to state I appreciate you guys talking more about the parks in the areas that you have been in your discussions earlier today. Also, quick reminder that it'd be nice to keep connectivity to the parks or the parks to the trail. That seemed to be a big oversight that hasn't been discussed, is the fact that there's not really great park access or public road park access to connect that park to the other side of that area. So this is the Arches Park. But yeah, I think it'd be great making it nice. It's just, it's not very well connected. So right now you gotta walk through the townhomes sidewalks to get through, and that's not really public. It could be closed anytime. So, but yeah, thank you very much for looking also at other park developments, since it is kind of short-sighted from previous decisions. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Anyone else that would like to make comment at this time? Okay, seeing no further comment, we will close the public comment portion of our meeting. We will move on to mayor and council board and committee reports. I serve as a member of the South Salt Lake Valley Mosquito Abatement District. You may have heard on the news that Salt Lake County has had their first death due to West Nile virus. That it was an individual that was over 50 who did have some other health issues, but it is once again a reminder that West Nile virus is a disease that is transmitted by mosquitoes, and we need to make sure that we continue to take preventative measures, especially when we're out in the early morning or in the late evening. And if they have any standing water around your house, please drain it. So if there's any old tires or horse troughs that don't get cleaned out regularly, please make sure that you take the time to go out and control the mosquitoes on your property, because it is a pretty serious situation. Any other council board reports for today?
I'll just make my comments when Chief gives his report.
We had our first youth council meeting about a week and a half ago, and it went well. We have 26 youth that have signed up and are participating in the youth council this year, young men and young women. So we're excited for them, and we're excited for the opportunities that they'll have, and really the service that they'll be providing to the city and learning and growing. So thank you for helping with that. And for all of you youth, 9th grade to 12th grade, next summer in about May, be prepared to sign up, because it's a great opportunity.
I'm a member of the sewer board, representative from our city, and again, the sewer board meeting was held yesterday, but unfortunately, again, due to some other circumstances, I was unable to attend the latest one. However, I've made arrangements to be able to meet with them to get an update on that, and I'll be able to provide that at our next council meeting. They are gearing up. Their budget is January through December, so we are starting that budget process for that organization. Discussing a lot of, obviously, the finer details of that budget. But that is a very well-ran organization, and they have done a very good job of preparing and being able to maintain our current costs. But again, I will have more details on the most recent meeting at our next council meeting to report on, so thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to item 4.1, Unified Police Department recognition of one of our officers. I'll let Lieutenant.
Mayor and Council, thank you for giving me the opportunity to showcase one of our officers, Officer Dustin Olzak. I'd like to invite up. If you don't know Officer Olzak, you soon will. He's going to be a member of HPD. Has done an outstanding job with us with Unified Police Department. I've known Officer Olzak since he hired on. I was a training officer in training when we hired him, and I'd like to give you an exact demonstration of some great work that he has recently done. On the afternoon of July 5th, 2018, Officer Dustin Olzak was working his patrol shift in Herriman City when he responded to a choking child call in the Copperwood apartments. Officer Olzak arrived before Unified Fire Authority and located the distressed mother holding the choking infant who was turning purple from lack of oxygen. Officer Olzak immediately took the child and began life-saving measures, applying palm thrusts to the child's back until the child began breathing again. While waiting for medics to arrive, the child again started turning purple and stopped breathing. Officer Olzak once again performed life-saving measures on the choking child and was able to free the obstruction after the second attempt. Officer Olzak's quick actions no doubt saved this child's life. After medics arrived and took over medical care for the infant, Officer Olzak took time to comfort the panicked mother after the child had gone into the medics' care. This is definitely beyond what we expect from our officers day to day. We expect them to take action, but to do so in such a stressful situation involving a child is really spectacular, and we applaud his efforts. And I know we have some young adults in the audience here maybe learning some quick intervention techniques in life-saving, such as CPR or another initiative that our Herriman precinct started this last year called Stop the Bleed. I believe it's very important for that quick interaction, that quick intervention in something serious as choking. So I want to thank Officer Olzak. Thank you very much for your kind work and outstanding work with not only the child but with the parents, because that's definitely something that hits home to us. So thank you.
A quick comment, if I may. Being someone that works in the first responder realm as well for my career, there's nothing more. You talked about a stressful situation, and no amount of training and preparation really can prepare you for those types of calls that involve young kids and infants. So to be able to respond in the manner that you did, and to be able to assist this family in their true time of need, and to perform the adequate measures to save that life is outstanding, and we're fortunate that you were in our community at the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have had the opportunity to know you for a couple of years now, and you are a fantastic officer, and we're grateful for the services that you provide to our community, and are looking forward to have you continue to do that here in our police department as we transition to the Herriman Police Department. So if you would be willing, we would like to come down and take a picture with you, if that'd be okay.
Fine, thank you.
You're in it too, Brian. Brian, you. Oh.
Oh, yeah, okay.
As we continue to get going, we have such fantastic people here in our city, and we're grateful to have them. So moving on to our next item, item 4.2, Point of the Mountain Vision Phase 3 update. Ryan Beck.
I'm actually Ari Bruning, but
What?
I'm Ari Bruning. Ryan Beck had a family event tonight, so.
Ari, thank you. Sorry, I just looked at the first name on the list.
And I was happy to come tonight because I live just outside your boundaries, so.
Well, there you go.
My kids are in Herriman High School's boundaries.
So you can upgrade and live in our city. So
There you go. We're not showing yet.
Give us just a second.
Wait a minute. We've been hard at work for the last 2 years working for the state for the Point of the Mountain Development Commission, and we wanted to come give you an update on what we've been up to and what we're finding and get any feedback you might have. If I can get the slides up. Look like you know what you're doing.
Bingo.
All right.
Magic touch.
The magic touch, literally. So in the 2016 legislative session, the state legislature created the Point of the Mountain Development Commission and tasked them with accomplishing these things that you see on this slide, everything from job creation to recreational opportunities, variety of community and housing types, and so forth. And then that group, the commission, issued an RFP to hire a consultant, and Envision Utah was hired along with a team of consultants behind us. So, and the project is a 3-phase project. So the first project, or the first phase, we did a lot of listening to the public and to stakeholders. We did a lot of research, spent a fair amount of time with your staff, did some surveys. Phase 2, we put together some alternative scenarios for the way the Point of the Mountain area could grow. Ran those through different models, travel demand models, and so on. Took those back to the stakeholders and the public for feedback. And then the result of that was a vision, an aspirational vision for 2050. And now we're in phase 3 where we're figuring out how do you pay for all the things that are in the vision. So that's the hard part. So as I said, we held numerous meetings. We held public workshops. Some of you may have been there. Got a lot of public responses to surveys and so on. You can find more about the project at pointofthemountainfuture.org. So there's a vision that's hundreds of pages. I gave you 1 page. Spared you the trouble of reading the hundreds of pages. But if you're interested in learning more, it's all there on the website. And we always like to lead with jobs. So one of the reasons that the legislature wanted to put together the Point of the Mountain Development Commission was that they saw the job growth and population growth that was happening in the Point of the Mountain area. This is, if not the fastest growing area in the state, it is one of the fastest growing. Southern Salt Lake County, northern Utah County, you see it. And so our economic development consultant looked at this and said, how do we capitalize on what's already happening here with the tech sector boom? And they came up with 2 different job growth scenarios. And you can see them on this slide. In the scenario where we do things right and catalyze growth, we add essentially another 150,000 jobs to the Wasatch Front. And those are high-paying jobs. So they estimated that the average household income for those additional jobs was about $40,000 higher. And that money spreads through the economy and creates additional jobs and economic activity and raises the overall average median household income by about $10,000. So then we asked them, well, what does it take to make that happen? And so we took what they said into consideration as we put together the vision, and as well as the public input and so on, and I handed out a sheet to you with the vision on 1 page with 12 signature elements, and then on the other side, which I'm actually showing you right now, is those 12 signature elements applied to the state prison site in Draper. So that was one of our tasks as well, was to look at that. So I'm not going to go through all 12 signature elements, but going to cover a few that you may be interested in. So as you look at this area, and you look at the 2050 population growth projections, by 2050 we're looking at about 1.5 million people in Salt Lake County and 1.3 million people in Utah County. That's doubling the population of Utah County, connected by a narrow bottleneck. And so the question is, how does economic activity happen between these 2 counties without being stuck in traffic all day? And we looked at I-15 at the Point of the Mountain, and no matter how we sliced it, today or in the future, even with Mountain View Corridor built, about 2/3 of the traffic crossing the county line on I-15 is just passing through. Neither end of the trip is within our study area, which is Lehigh to Sandy. So just passing through, which raises the question, what do you do about that? How do you accommodate that? And we modeled what different travel times. And if you look at the travel times going north, compared present day to the future, this is PM peak hour. Going north doesn't look too bad. It's going south, where most of the growth is happening in Utah County, where it goes from a 28-minute trip from Draper to Provo to an 86-minute trip. And so as we put together the vision, added new projects, and did some things with land use, we were able to get that down to 66 minutes. That's still not great, but a lot of that trip is outside of our study area, so more work to be done. So some of the solutions to this, including widening roads and so on, one thing we looked at was this idea of vibrant urban centers. So these are mixed-use places where you have housing, jobs, shopping, all in one place, and you can get between them on local streets. So you don't have to go out on the major streets and create congestion. And if you look at that vision map, those are those kind of bluish squares. And we talked to folks in Herriman and identified a couple of those that are actually in Herriman. You got the Herriman Town Center. It's part of that Mountain View Village, as well as the Rosecrest area with the community college and the Real Salt Lake facility and so on. So identified these as vibrant urban centers. And these are places where you can shorten trips, reduce the amount of traffic that's on the roads, and also catalyze economic development. We also looked at the balance between jobs and housing. So if you look at this map, the colors here are, red means there are more jobs than houses. Green means there are more houses than jobs, and yellow is kind of a balance. So if you look on, basically the jobs are on I-15, the houses are west. And that's one of the reasons why we have an east-west traffic problem. Everybody gets up in the morning, drives east for their jobs, in the afternoon they drive west to go home. And so the question is, can we create some jobs on the west side, and can we add some housing near the jobs on the east side to balance that out a little bit and help with the traffic? So as we did that, we did the vibrant urban centers, did a little bit better jobs housing balance. We were able to make it so that the average person can access about 50% more jobs within a 45-minute auto trip. So better access to opportunity. And then through transit, significantly more jobs that they could access. So another key that we found was a connected street network. So if you see on this slide, on the left side, you'll see the Institute of Transportation Engineers recommended spacing for different types of streets. So I think the red are freeways, arterials, collectors, local streets. And then on the right, you'll see our actual street network in Salt Lake County. We have a ways to go. So the key, or one key to making it, relieving congestion, making it easier to walk and bike and get around with shorter trips is this connectivity. And it needs to happen at all levels, everywhere from the local street network all the way up to the larger streets. Okay, now I wanted to get into a few of the specific projects that came out of this that you might be interested in. So this is looking at about the county line, Utah County, Salt Lake County line. The Mountain View Corridor is going to be on the west side, running north-south. I-15 is going to be on the east side there, running north-south. And this idea has been looked at before. The idea is some sort of high-speed connection between the two, because we saw a lot of demand for people to get back and forth between I-15 and Mountain View. And so when we put this into the model, first of all, it got 170,000 cars on it per day. That's a lot. But second, it relieved a lot of the east-west traffic. And I'm going to show you a couple specific examples. So 2100 north in Lehigh, without that, this is the volume divided by capacity. So if you're at 1, then you're at complete capacity. If you're above 1, you're at gridlock. So we go from 1.5 to 0.88 with this. So it relieves the traffic there. Similarly, Porter Rockwell Boulevard, not even completed yet. We're already telling you it's going to fail without this. So. But the results also impact 126 South, 134 South, not as dramatically as some of these other roads, but it does have an impact. We also looked at a connection between the Mountain View Corridor and Bangerter Highway. So we modeled it at 134 South, 126 South, anywhere in that area, there's a lot of traffic wanting to get back and forth. There's a lot today. You look into the future, and it gets even worse. So the Wasatch Front Regional Council is taking this the next step and analyzing what kind of connection could this be. And they're looking at things like express lanes, similar to what's on SR 92 in Lehigh. They're also looking at reversible lanes, like you see on 5400 South. You're shaking your head. I hate the signs up there. They're so annoying. It does relieve traffic. But anyway, they're looking at all those kinds of options. And I know this is in Riverton, but it's right next to Herriman and then on your front door. So
Haven't built it yet. Go buy that land and build that road.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, if I could just take a second here,
sure.
Literally just south of that, there is a middle school that is a little bit older that I'm sure the school district would love to have a new building. And if we move that right now, if we were to move that school, you have a straight shot of undeveloped land between Bangerter and Mountain View Corridor, literally like a block and a half south of 134th. Now would be the time for all of us to be looking at that particular location as a possible high-speed connection.
Yeah, as you said, now is the time because
Not gonna
development
last.
is happening here right now.
Yep.
So, all right, that's good feedback.
We're very serious about making sure that is the feedback received and heard.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you too much, but if you could go back a couple of slides to that the two grid comparison.
Which one? The grid?
That one.
Yeah.
So what we were kind of sidebarring on is there's something noticeably missing from about SR 201 south on that west, on that west, yeah, on that west side where you said there's only housing, and that's the issue right now, is that if organizations like this don't do anything, they fill all that in with houses before we can put roads in.
If we don't purchase the
and we're
land now.
stuck. This will never happen.
Yeah,
Well,
there's just no plans.
Yeah, there's the right-of-way preservation question. There's also the question of will jobs go somewhere where the roads aren't there, right? So.
Well, and for us, the houses are here. I mean, that's for us what it is the houses are already here. And so, and we appreciate you coming, giving us a
sure
presentation.
You already know this.
Know all these things, and we're just giving you even more reinforcement for the things you already know.
Just part of our frustration for residents that are here and the Boy Scouts that are here. We're trying to affect this as much as we can, but
yep, agreed.
I'm sure you know all the roadblocks that are there.
Yep, agreed. We're trying to help. So.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And we wish that somebody had the foresight to build an east-west freeway 40 years ago. Now it's hard. We also looked at public transportation in this area. And let's simplify this. So we looked at the extending the blue line south into Lehigh, both east of I-15 and west of I-15 through the prison site. There's also been a lot of discussion about extending the red line, either straight south or bending it east through Riverton. Honestly, we had a hard time getting the ridership to model, but we did put something on the map to preserve the right-of-way and lead to further discussions.
In all honesty, most of that right-of-way is already preserved. We've already preserved it on your behalf. So it's hopefully we will continue to see future progress moving towards that particular one, because our residents, I mean, I was in a meeting where we were just told that they did a scan of the license plate at the Daybreak station, and it was something around 37% of the license plates for vehicles at the Daybreak station were registered in Herriman. So, you know, we get that there's policies and process and everybody has things to go. We just have some frustration, and we apologize we're taking it out on you.
I understand it, and I think the WFRC's plan right now is to plan some core bus routes there to build the ridership and demonstrate it, but more work to be done. We did put it on the vision.
Which we very much appreciate. Thank you.
Let's see. And then one other element of the vision is connected network of world-class open spaces and recreation. And you're doing a lot of great things in Herriman. This spot at the point of the mountain is the only place where the Oakers and the Wasatch come together. So we heard a lot from people about wanting to create places where people and wildlife can get back and forth. You know, there are great trail systems being built over in Draper, great trail systems being built here. You have the Jordan River Parkway. Let's connect them all and create a tremendous network of trails.
We fully agree and are on board with that.
I knew you were. So anyway, this is kind of cartoonish drawing of the network. But so where we're going from here, the first step is Wasatch Front Regional Council's in the middle of creating their 2050 regional transportation plan. And if you go to their website and look at what's on it, it looks remarkably similar to this, because we've been coordinating with them a lot. And feel free to make comments to them as well. So they're now in the process of phasing.
Me and Andrew have had many conversations.
Great. The other thing that's going on is the legislature this session created the Point of the Mountain State Land Authority, and they have direct jurisdiction over what happens with the actual prison site in Draper. You know, when land sales might occur, how development might happen, those kinds of things. We put together a vision of what it could look like, but it's really up to them as to what might happen. So, and there's the beautiful rendering we did of what it could look like. It's the greenest place in Utah. Might look like that in May, I don't know. Anyway, so I think that's through all I've got. So, and then the other thing we're working on is our phase 3, figuring out how to pay for some of this infrastructure. So, minor problem.
Just a slight problem.
So, with that, I'll take any other questions, comments.
No, we appreciate you. We genuinely do appreciate the update, and this is, you know, I've been involved with this process for some time as well, and it is an extremely complex and difficult process to address such a major need of our entire state. So thank you for all your work. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. And
Thank you.
you know, as the saying goes, the best place to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Next best time is now, right? So.
Yeah. Yep. 130, what, 36 south? Is that roughly where it would be? 136 south. Just keep that in mind. Pass that along again. Thanks.
Right.
Appreciate it.
Is that in Herriman or is that in Riverton?
It's in Riverton.
It's in Riverton. That's helpful.
We're working on that.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that, Ari. All right, we will move on to item 4.3, Herriman Police Department update. Chief Carr is not here today, so we will have Chief Reyes. Will come and
Yeah, Mayor, the chief has to be excused. It's his anniversary, and we thought that was more important than him
Absolutely
being here.
was.
If not, he might not.
I lied to be
here
off tonight.
Tomorrow.
He wouldn't be here tomorrow at all. You're right.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to fill in. As you guys all know, I'm sure as well as I do, that we only have 38 days left until our launch date. And
That clock keeping you on task, good deal.
And get more stressed with every tick.
You're welcome.
But we are making progress. We've received an additional vehicle from UPD. We're getting that branded. UPD has been very cooperative with us in transferring assets as we can. And we're turning those over to our vendors to get them rebranded and set up to be passed out to our officers as they come. We anticipate the next vehicle transfer from UPD will be on the 10th of September, and we've got negotiated delivery times in place with the different vendors that we're using to do radios and branding and everything. And so we're hoping that everything goes as planned and smoothly, and we get those out and ready to go on the 29th. We anticipate the majority of the vehicles will come over to us, I'm sure, as Chief Carr mentioned to you before, on the 17th. We did hire our grandma specialist, Patsy Hall, and she has already got a mobile RMS, record management system, up and running. It's in a test phase right now, but she's assigning all the officers that we've hired, so we're making progress in that arena as well.
Just so you guys know, grandma is
not your grandma.
Is not your grandmother. It's the law that requires us to release information, and so that's what they're referring to when they say the grandma specialist.
Right. It's the Government Records Access Management Act, if you want to know. There's no D in it, even though we do say grandma, like grandma here in Utah. So we have run into an issue with a domain and BCI audit. So we've created a new domain, and so the new website for Herriman PD will be just that. It'll be herrimanpd.org rather than just an extension of herriman.org. And that was a requirement by the state BCI, the Bureau of Criminal Identification. We had to have separate domains. We hope to have an ORI and be set up with BCI completely by next week. So we're still kind of waiting for an audit to be completed by them. Karen, our executive assistant, has established our portal into Post, and so we've uploaded all of our officers to Post, and so we anticipate that that transition will go smoothly. Their certification will transfer right over, and we've set up a couple other mandatory portals with different government partners like our sex offender registry and e-prosecutor with the DA's office. So again, we're making progress. We're feeling good about it. We're feeling like we're still on target, but it is getting down to the wire. We have made a couple other hires. As some of you may be aware, we got a request by Herriman High to not have a transition mid-school year, even though it would have been at the beginning of the school year. They asked us if we could just bring on an officer that would be there for the entire year. And so we hired an SRO. His name is Jake Burns, and he comes to us with a lot of experience in schools from Sandy Police Department, and he's already been welcomed very, very well by the staff at Herriman High. He's in our uniform. He's walking around meeting kids and doing a great job representing us well. So we're excited about that. We've made progress with John on different MOUs and interlocal agreements that will be presented to you at future dates to join different task forces and teams, joint shared staffing teams like the OICI, which is the Officer Involved Critical Incident, VFAST, ICAC, a bunch of acronyms you might not understand, but they're all good things. We also just finished a pretty progressive discussion with South Jordan Police Department and Chief Carr there, Chief Jeff Carr, and we've come to a mutual agreement on how we will try and form a South Valley SWAT team. And so that's been pretty progressive thinking and hoping that we're going to be able to share resources in that area without entering into any MOUs or interlocal agreement that is going to bind us to do one thing or the other. So we're going to try it out, kind of a test phase, see how the training goes, see how the tactics go, and hopefully we're going to have some success there. And as you may have noticed, you all have gifts on your desk there. The patches are in. They turned out really well, we think. We like the design that Tammy's team helped us out with, and we're ready to go with those on the uniform. Those are a huge turnaround time for us, so we're excited to get those in the right order, right colors, everything else ready to go. And hopefully our badges will be in shortly. We did our shirt badges. We did get in the hat badges, and I brought a sample of these up to show you. Just kind of pass these around.
And I was told very clearly to make sure that nobody puts on Chief Carr's hat.
So there is a bacteria virus protection barrier on there, so don't take it out of the
He will blacklight that later, I guarantee it.
But you'll get an idea. So this will be our Class A hat, which is exactly the same as UPD's hat, but the badge is slightly different. So we've got that in. It's branded with Herriman branding, and we're really excited. Like I said, we're happy that we're making progress, and it's tangible progress. And that's pretty much it for the update. Any questions at all?
One question I had with regards to your update on the SWAT has South Jordan up to this point been doing all of their own internal SWAT? Have they entered into any other agreements where they've shared resources with other departments?
So they do train regularly with Sandy and Draper SWAT teams as well. But one of the issues that they had that they kind of brought to our attention, which we didn't want to repeat, was they did enter into MOUs with Draper and Sandy that were kind of restrictive. And so when they had an issue come up that one team didn't agree on, then they had no real out. And so the idea here, and we're actually going to approach Draper and Sandy as well, is to maintain the same level of proficiency and the same tactics, we want to try to employ the same tactics that they do, but still have our own discretion on whether or not we agree with what they're doing or not. Okay. So it doesn't bind us to any uniforms, for example, or any specific way to clear a room. And that's where some of the debate came up in the past with those other agencies, and we want to try and stay away from that.
Right.
Any other questions?
I'll say secondly, and then I'll be done, is that I know it's timing is difficult, especially, you know, with the start of the school year, but I think it will be very valuable to have, and working with Jordan School District, have put that SRO officer in there right from the get-go. For the start of this new school year this week, I think that that was a very forward-thinking step to do, even though obviously you can transition, and sometimes you have to transition mid-year for other reasons as well. But again, I think to get that person in there right at the start of the school year, to build those relationships not only with the administration and the staff over there, but more importantly with the students,
right,
will be a very positive thing. And I'm excited to hear more about that progress as it continues to happen.
And that was really the number one motivating factor for getting him in there, is so that the students had continuity.
Yep.
And I will also say that UPD has been very helpful in assisting us in that. I mean, we don't have an ORI, some things that prohibit us from being a full-fledged police department yet. And so we've been working hand in hand with UPD, with the SROs that are you know, in the other schools for UPD, and they've been really responsive to that. Day one, we had an incident at Herriman High with some vandalism. They spray painted the HHS out in front of the school, and some of the students saw that, and Herriman and UPD, Herriman PD and UPD really worked collectively to try and pacify and put the students at ease and the administration at ease, and let them know that we're going to try and solve that and figure out who that was and bring them to justice. So.
Well, partnerships is what it's all about. And
right.
In many fashions, you know, you've talked about obviously the partnership that we're building with South Jordan, and the continued partnership with UPD, and obviously you being one of them. We're very fortunate for the UPD department, for the training that it has provided to all of these great people that we will get to benefit from, and having that partnership there moving forward will be valuable for us. So.
Right, and you know, as an administration, I feel confident in saying that, you know, in the conversations that I've had with UPD administration, that Chief Carr and I have had, we want to continue that partnership. We're none of us are intending to lose any friends over this, and continue that relationship so that we serve our community the best way we can.
Absolutely. Well done.
All right, thank you.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah,
Chief.
sorry.
I'll just make a couple comments. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but just for public consideration, because we continue to get this question, it seems every meeting, every week. We are still contracted for actual police services with UPD through the end of September. The handover from UPD to Herriman PD is 11:59 seconds on September 29th. So we'll have a couple of events planned that week in recognition of that. That's why we're still working closely with each other. Herriman PD's been working hard. We've asked these guys to really, not just Chief Reyes and Chief Carr and their team, but all of our staff to really accomplish some Herculean tasks over the last couple of months. So as we come into kind of the final 30 days coming up here, it's really gratifying to see a lot of this kind of come to fruition and have some physical evidence that, yep, it's coming and it's going to be here soon. These dates that are coming up, I'll just remind the council from a board perspective, the board did approve our transition plan 2 meetings ago now. They have one more meeting where we'll have an official member on the board. After September, we won't. We'll continue to monitor that as we continue to negotiate the monetary part of our departure. This negotiation has only been about the physical assets, cars, et cetera. So the next transfer of those assets, as Chief Reyes said, will be the 10th of September and the 17th going into that. So for public consumption, UPD is handling the law enforcement as we bring our new officers on board. Those that are coming from UPD are bringing their equipment with them straight over. They'll be somewhat seamless, but we have to go through a process of inventory and rebranding, et cetera. So we have that 2 weeks for training and get everybody on board. So this is kind of, all the planning is coming together here the last few weeks, and these guys are doing a fantastic job.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I'll just echo what the councilman said. I mean, it's every department in the city, really, from you know, parks to communications. Everybody has really stepped up to kind of get this done. like the councilman said, it's a Herculean task, and the tangible evidence that we have that we're making progress is nice to have. And not only Herriman City, but again, I'll echo UPD. UPD has really tried to accommodate us in every way possible. The tasers that are going to transfer over need to be downloaded, and so an officer is going to quit UPD, and then they're going to go up there, and they've made concessions for us to go up there, special appointments at their range, so they can take UPD's name off of the taser and then give it right back to the Herriman officer, and the same with the radios and everything, and it is a Herculean task for UPD to pull that off, and so kudos to them for being willing to work with us.
Sure.
You guys rock.
Thanks, sir.
You too over there, Brian.
Thanks.
Thank you for everything you guys are doing. All right, we will move on to the consent agenda portion of our agenda. I will accept a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Second?
Okay, a motion and a second. Clint?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
And I will vote yes, that motion passes. All right, item 6.1, discussion and consideration. This is the only actual discussion item on our agenda for tonight. Discussion and consideration of a text change to the Land Development Code on behalf of Herriman City, amending Chapter 16, Table of Uses, file number, I'm not going to read the file number. Brent.
Hello.
Sorry, I just have to interject. I saw a little bit of squirming. I was about to say, these might be the only scouts that make it through an entire meeting.
know, I'm
and then I
impressed.
almost thought they were going to leave there
But
for
they
a
were
second.
going to leave, and this is the most exciting part, so.
Well, now that you just put them on the spot, they are committed.
They said, they settled back down. I saw one of them. No, we're going to say.
All right, this is a text change to Chapter 16, the Table of Uses. In December, we adopted an entirely new land use ordinance, and one of the things that we did was put all of the uses into one table, into one chapter. When we did that, over the last couple of months using it, we've just noticed a couple things that needed to be fixed. Either things that were missed or things that we added just needed to be tweaked a little bit. So 90% of what this is just cleanup stuff. It doesn't change a lot of stuff substantially, but I will go over kind of the bigger changes. You did talk about this a little bit in your work meeting last week too, so stop me if you have any questions. I think Alan's gonna try and, it's a super exciting PowerPoint with tables on it, so we probably don't need it, but.
You guys really can leave if you want to.
They really want to see it, I'm sure. So again, this is kind of the first step in the process, with just cleaning up. Again, this indicates which uses are permitted or conditional. If they aren't shown as either, then they aren't allowed in that zone. We do have a specific list of prohibited uses as well. So one of the first things we did is, we're getting there. One of the first things we did was the animal uses in the new code had been combined into one line, animals, and so it was, and then there was a lot of footnotes, and so it was a lot more confusing. So we just separated that out, as you can see. Oh, I gotta click her, thank you. So we separated that out into the backyard chickens, the foster animals, the family food production, just so it was easier for people to kind of see exactly which one they were and follow the line over. So again, no changes there, other than just to separate out those uses. One of the other things we did was we just moved home occupations were listed under commercial uses. We felt it made more sense to list them under residential. So again, no changes there where they're allowed, just moved it up under residential.
So, Bren, I'm
Yeah.
gonna stop you for just a second and have a discussion with the council on this particular item. I personally feel that in the RM zone, since it is a residential zone, that should be a conditional use. And so I would ask that the council consider making that change at this time as well. We recently pulled that out. That was before I was on this council. I disagreed with that change, and I think that we should move that back in. I think it's inappropriate for us to tell certain residents that they can't do what all the rest of the residents in the city can do. So that's my 2 cents, and I don't know if you guys want to have a discussion about it or be willing to look at that change, but that's what I would like to.
You're talking
to say.
just the daycare, though.
Just the daycare.
Just the daycare,
Okay,
yeah.
because I'm like, home occupation is permitted.
Yep, just that one box that doesn't have a C on that line, the RM. So that prevents a substantial number of our residents from doing any sort of daycare or preschool type in their homes, even if it's just a single child, if they're gonna get paid for it, they can't do it in their homes now if we don't allow it in that particular zone for that RM. And I personally disagree with that. Now, I know there's other people that disagree with me on that, and the previous council changed that, but I would like to recommend that we change that back.
I'll speak out as the only member here of the previous council. The thought there was that it's the multifamily.
RM is going to be, is multifamily, and 90% of the RM we have is apartments. We do have some RM that is townhomes, so that would affect those, but most of it in general was meant for the apartments, not having daycares in apartments.
Right, so that like our biggest concern there with 90% being apartments,
Right.
even townhomes, the traffic and parking in those places is not, at least in my opinion, I won't speak for the others, is not adequate for the residents there, and then you add a home occupation there that potentially increases that. It affects the other residents unnecessarily.
So the other thing I would say is, but it's a conditional use, so when they come, that would all be taken into consideration. So if there isn't enough parking or enough adequate access to that, then they'd be denied based on it doesn't have substantial good conditions. Is that correct or no?
Could be, yes, it could be. We like to always start out kind of thinking about conditional uses as being allowed, though. Denying is always harder. But that's true. If it was conditional, and we could always, what we could look at is adding it now or perhaps bringing it back with some conditions. So allowing it as a conditional use in RM if, and list those things, if there is this type of parking or if there is this type of situation. And spelling those conditions out right in the ordinance so that it was clear for staff and the resident what would be expected of them.
Personally, I would be open to that if that's what the council thought was
Having,
appropriate.
spent the time that I did on the planning commission, again, I think the thought is that when you have it in there listed as a conditional use, the premise is that it comes in as it is an allowed use.
Right.
Now, you can't obviously address some of the other things, primarily looking at safety in those. I would be open to the discussion of putting it back in, but I think that it needs to have other clearly outlined conditions as part of that before I would be willing to look any further at it, because I think my time on the planning commission, we ran into some of those issues, some of those concerns in the RM zone that, again, as Councilman Henderson has said, that I think makes it too difficult to put in that type of zone, generally speaking. Maybe there are some circumstances where, but I think that if there's support from the rest of the council, I would entertain at least looking at it, but only, again, if staff had some time to prepare some very, very clear conditions that make those that come in to apply for that conditional use to know exactly what they're up against before they come in.
That was one of our big concerns, and the feedback we got from Planning Commission in our joint meetings was, look, if you put this in as conditional, it's allowed.
Yep.
Right.
Right. So from a legislative body, we have to think about that next step. If we put conditional there, well, what is the Planning Commission's job? Their job is to look at the list. Well, it's allowed unless we want to put conditions on, but then that sometimes is overreaching their purview. So if we were to do so, I think we'd have to tighten it up pretty firm.
It might be difficult to get
for
there.
them to get.
Agreed. It might be difficult to get there. I'm willing to have the discussion and look at it to see if we can, but I think it is going to be challenging to get to where we think that it addresses the concerns that we truly have.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that just out of respect to look at it and consider it, but it might be so much restriction on it that it's just like, forget it. It's not worth it. So,
And we can certainly look at it and bring back some suggestions.
So thank you, and I think we've given direction at this point.
Yeah,
So we
yep,
appreciate it, and
I know.
I'll allow you to continue. Thank you.
And the
for
planning
letting me
commission's
interrupt.
actually looking at home occupations right now, so we'll kind of work that into it, so that works.
Oh, so close. They were so close.
Oh, man, they're missing
Thank
the best
you.
part.
Quick, I'll accept a motion. Let's see if we can get it done.
That whole conditional use topic, that
They
just put
just
them over
really
the
ma-
edge.
So again, this is simple. Home occupations got moved up. Trying to see if there's anything else big on here that we changed. We added food trucks to the MU2 zone because obviously we're allowing them here in the town center. One of the changes the Planning Commission wanted to make and recommended making is removing heavy industry. So you can see heavy industry is not allowed anywhere anymore. That was a use that they thought that we weren't likely to desire or really want anywhere. And we talked to economic development, and that was...
Yeah, under the development code, what's the definition
Of what's a heavy industry?
It's smokestacks type stuff. It's pretty heavy industry. It's not the light manufacturing, office park, data center type stuff. We've been talking about that. That would all fall under more manufacturing, light manufacturing type stuff. The heavy industry is pretty
Like
heavy
steel manufacturing, coal
pretty
manufacturing,
heavy
copper
type
manufacturing.
stuff, yeah. So,
Hence
and
heavy.
Planning Commission recommended that. We were comfortable with that. We talked to Gordon, and like I said, I don't think those are uses we're looking for. So we were okay with making that change as well. So again, those are the big changes. Planning Commission had a public hearing. They did not have any comments, oddly enough. And they recommended approval of this, so that's what I've got. Any questions?
Any further discussion among council?
No, just how do we allow staff to proceed with that one item? Do we continue this? Do we
No, I think
approve
bringing it
with-
back as a different item
I think
is
just have them
appropriate.
bring it.
Yeah,
back
we'll
as
bring
a
it back
item,
as another text
as
change.
a potential text
So it's
change.
gonna be adopted right now as it's not being allowed, but we're gonna bring it back as possibly adding it back on. Okay.
I think I know there's not a lot here, but hopefully there's some viewing online to see as you start to look at all of these tables and things, just to give you an idea of part of the task that we ask our planning commissioners to do. It's a big task.
And the Planning Commission spent 3 or 4 meetings going through all these uses and stuff. So yeah, they spent a lot of time going through it.
But at least they're well compensated for their time.
I was just gonna say,
for
keep
sure.
in mind that they are volunteers.
Volunteers, absolutely.
They volunteer to get yelled at.
Yeah.
All right, so if there's no further comment or discussion from the council, I'd be willing to accept a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2018-26, authorizing a text change to the Land Development Code to amend Chapter 16, the Table of Uses.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Clint?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. That motion passes. All right, that was the agenda for today. Just a few upcoming meetings that we have. We do have a joint City Council Planning Commission meeting, which is open to the public. It will be on August 30th at 6 p.m. It will be in this building. Generally, we have that meeting downstairs in our community room. On September 6th, will be the next Planning Commission meeting, and our next meeting as a City Council will be on September 12th. We do have our dig-off coming up on September 12th as well, which our construction guys show their amazing skills with, or not construction, our outdoor staff, public works staff, show off their amazing, sweet skills with the heavy equipment. It's actually really quite impressive. That'll be at Butterfield Park at 10 a.m. We do have our community partner luncheon on September 19th. And then we also want to give a quick shout out to our Children's Theater, which will be performing September 20th through the 24th at Butterfield Park. With that, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Hey, Mayor,
Yes.
you do have a closed session, but I have one item to report. It's legal, but is not a closed. Is that all right if I report it now?
Please.
So the Van Sheer versus Herriman, we got a answer, or the decision on that, and the city won. So there'll be a gas station going there.
Okay. And that, can you, just for the public, what's the location of that particular gas station? Blake?
It is on the northeast corner of 5600 West and Main Street.
Kitty corner from the Holiday Oil there.
Thanks, John, for your efforts on that. I know that that's...
Yeah, so one point I wanted to make to you, the cost of that's going to be a little higher than we normally thought because the judge required 2 hearings, and then he required both sides to submit findings and fact, which was a lot of work.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, then with that, I will accept a motion to close our general session, or close our general meeting and go into a closed session.
I will motion to temporarily recess the city council meeting to convene in a closed session for the purpose to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property as provided by Utah Code annotated 52-4-205.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Do we need anything for litigation?
No.
Okay. All right, I have a motion and a second. Jared?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Thank you for attending our meeting.